Hey, good afternoon, YouTube. Thank you for tuning into my channel again. I really appreciate it. Thank you for viewing this video. Please follow it all the way through to the end. Hopefully I won't be a little bit windy on this, but what I'm bringing up today is the idiocracy of the city of Portland. Now, let me put a caveat to that, and that's I do understand them trying to eliminate the amount of pedestrians and people that are hit by cars and people dying in car wrecks in this town. But they've got this goal of reaching zero deaths related to traffic incidences within the city. And I can understand them trying to reach the goal. What I don't understand and what I'm extremely frustrated about is the city's not any smaller, It's getting bigger, and there's more and more people moving in. They're building apartment complexes where single family dwellings used to be. And we're literally stuffing more and more people into the square footage that the city has. And thus, there's also an increase in traffic. And with that increase in traffic, motor vehicle traffic that is, there's an increase in bicycles and an increase in pedestrians. And there's one thing that's very consistent within the city is there's little to no traffic enforcement done by the police department. So on a given day when I'm driving through the city, I live on the east side, which is east of I-205. What we see on a regular basis is people who will pull up to a T intersection on a red light and they'll travel up the bike lane and go through the red light and not stop. There's people that all the time are driving well in excess of the speed limit. And there's lots and lots of people every single day that run stop signs, that run red lights. Both pedestrians crossing illegally, cars crossing illegally, and bicyclists. There's bicyclists constantly riding on the wrong side of the road, and there's no traffic enforcement for all these infractions. People go where they want and people do what they want, and there's little to no enforcement to stop and prevent this. And I think the city could help reduce the amount of deaths related to traffic incidences solely by putting the police force into policing the city and monitoring traffic flows and actually doing traffic enforcement. In fact, I was at an intersection where a police car was, and a car blatantly runs through the red light, and the police car did nothing. They just watched them go on through the intersection and on their way. And then the police officer in turn went on their way. I have seen police officers in this town quite regularly drive through red lights, and they're not going to any calls. They're just traveling with everybody else, but they run through the red lights. I've seen them flip U-turns in the road. They'll flip on their lights for a quick second, flip a U-turn across a double yellow line, and sometimes an island with quadruple yellow lines. And they'll flip their lights on, flip a U-turn, turn the lights off, and then continue traveling. And they're not going to a call because I followed them. They're just driving. And so we got police officers who don't even obey the traffic laws in this town. I've seen police officers, they don't obey the speed limit, even when they're not responding to a call. I can understand it if they respond to a call, but they're driving in excess of the speed limit, and they're just driving in town, doing their patrol, I suppose. But they're not responding to a call. Why? How do I know that? Because I've followed them for quite a ways, blocks, multiple blocks even. And they will eventually turn in someplace and turn around and go somewhere else, or eventually pop a call and then they'll turn on the lights and then speed off in a totally opposite direction from which they were previously traveling. And this isn't just the police officers, this is also the supervisors that don't obey the traffic laws. So if we want to prevent the deaths, why don't we start there? Let's start policing the traffic, the pedestrians, and the bicycles in this town. But the city has decided to take a completely different route, and that's spend millions of dollars redesigning streets. I will post a video here shortly showing one of the projects that they're doing to supposedly reduce the amount of deaths related to traffic incidents and car crashes in, quote, high crash corridors. One of these is northeast 102nd Avenue between Wilder and Sandy. And then the one that has me, or the next two have me thoroughly tweaked because I use them quite regularly, is Northeast Gleason between 122nd and 162nd Avenue. And then the other one is Foster, which nowadays I completely avoid altogether because of the nightmare that it is. But they've done this project to Foster between Southeast 50th all the way up to Southeast 90th Street. And what they've done is, as you will see in the video, they've taken 4-lane roads of travel, 2 going each direction, usually with a center island and some width on the side for parking inside the streets, and they've literally reduced it to 1 lane of travel in each direction, or a 2-lane traveled road. And so these are some of the heaviest traveled streets in the city of Portland, and it is backing up traffic. It is becoming an absolute nightmare. And what you are seeing is people are getting irritated, and they're going away from these streets that they used to travel on, and they're driving faster through the neighborhoods to get to where they want to go. And that's going to create its own problems in and of itself. And then the one that really has me upset is the one that they've just recently done on Gleason between 122nd and 162nd Avenue, is that it sits directly in front of my daughter's elementary school. Now, although this might be a good idea, but it's become a nightmare for parental pickup at the school. We used to be able to pull up in front of the school on Gleason Street, pick up our children, and then drive off, re-enter traffic, and drive off. That has been totally blocked off now. In the video that I will show, you will see a green strip of land. That is now a bike road, so to speak, with bike traveling going both directions. So now you're going to have bicyclists traveling in the wrong direction on the wrong side of the street. I'm assuming it's for a bicycle crosswalk, as they have been referring to them in other places in the city. And they've eliminated the curbside parking in front of the school. And so now parents who pick up their children are having to shuffle to the back end of the parking lot, and it's backing up the side streets so the buses can't even get into the parking lot. It's just an absolute freaking nightmare. And then trying to get out of the parking lot to leave to go is also a nightmare. So it's ridiculous what they're doing. They're creating a bigger nightmare that I have a feeling will eventually cause more accidents and maybe even more pedestrian injuries as a direct result of what they have done to Gleason Street now. And what I have noticed since they've done this is the irritation of drivers has increased. In heavily traveled roads like Gleason here, and they've done this to Foster, where they've reduced them from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes, 1 lane going each direction, and then they're putting on-street parking and bike lanes. And all this is doing is creating an absolute freaking nightmare for traveling around the city. And around 3 o'clock in the afternoon to pick up my daughter is a nightmare traveling down this street now. So they're not preventing and pulling people over for speeding, running red lights, running stop lights, or pulling over cyclists for running red lights and running stop signs, or pedestrians who just walk wherever they want to. They're not policing that action. So they're policing all of us who drive the roads in cars. And I think what their ultimate goal is trying to get people out of their cars and into public transportation. Unfortunately, this won't work for my family, very large family, and we only own 1 car. So it's a process of dropping people off and picking people up at the various locations. And that's on our family. But it's just crazy what they're doing. And they're spending lots of money to do this. And then the other thing we're seeing is they are reducing speed signs all throughout the city, dropping the speed limits down. Most cases just about 5 miles an hour, which isn't such a big deal. But it is increasing the traffic time and to get from one place to another. And as I said before, I've also noticed it seems to be increasing people's intolerance when you do drive the speed limit. They're whipping and going around you as rapidly as they can, as soon as they can, and they're in themselves a danger on the road. And like I said, because of some of this, we are seeing people blatantly running red lights at T intersections, sometimes at 4-lane intersections, just because, in my opinion, they're irritated at not being able to get from point A to point B in a timely fashion. Prime examples, it takes me on average about a half an hour to go about 2.5 miles from my house to my daughter's elementary school for pickup. And this is a direct result of this reduction in traffic flow and the reduction in speeds. The other thing we are seeing is like what they did to, I think it's 130th Avenue that goes parallel to David Douglas High School, which was a 2-lane road to begin with, but now they've made it no parking on the right side of the road, and they've made this big, humongous bike lane and allowing parking on the other side of the road, which would be the west side of the road. East side of the road has no parking. West side of the road you can park and has a big, ginormous bike lane. And the problem with this is come school times for concerts at the school for my children who play instruments, there's going to be next to no parking because now you can't park on the street anymore, where you used to be able to park on the street. You can't now, except for the other side, and of course that side is going to get filled up, where when concerts were taking place, both sides of the street would be filled up plus the parking lot. So now we're literally going to have to park multiple blocks away in order to get to the school for my children's concerts because they've made bike lanes on both sides of the road now and no parking, and it's just, and not only did they do that, but they also put these ridiculous speed bumps that, yeah, if you drive 20-25 miles an hour you can go over them, but there's a lot of people that won't do that. They slow down, come almost a complete stop before going over the speed bump, and again delaying traffic. And then what they did at the other end where this road intersects Stark, where it used to be 2 lanes, one going right, one going left, they have now made it a single lane of travel. So in the mornings after dropping my kids off, that is now starting to get backed up because you have to wait for pedestrians, the high schoolers, to cross the street, to cross Stark Street, and to make your right turn. And so a person like myself who makes a left turn to go east is getting stuck behind the light for this reason. Because you used to be able to just make a left turn while the right lane waited for the pedestrians to cross. And now it's taking the pedestrians to cross the street, which eats up almost the entire traffic light. And generally speaking, 1 to maybe 2 cars get through the intersection. And here I am wanting to make a left turn, and I'm having to wait for the next light to go through the intersection. So all of this is just, in my opinion, is idiocracy. It's destroying the city, and it's just one more reason why I want to get out of this city so badly. These stupid politics in this town are driving me absolutely insane. So there you have it. There's my opinion on the city's revampments for improving the city for protection of human lives from traffic collisions, wrecks, and you name it, they're trying to do it. So anyway, that's my opinion to it, and keep in mind, this is costing the taxpayers of this town millions of dollars to do these projects, when just leave our streets alone and let us travel. That I would post a link to the city's website for their Vision Zero plan. And on this plan, you will see various things. You can read through it and what they're doing in the city. I haven't been able to find any information on where all the money's being spent to go to, but I am seeing all sorts of stupid little signs popping up in yards. So I'm sure the city's paying for these signs that people are putting in front of their houses that say 20 is plenty. And, you know, they've reduced the speed limits through neighborhoods, and in some neighborhoods that is. And they've replaced speed limit signs all through the city, which I know costs huge amounts of dollars as they're reducing speed limits all over the place. So all of this is big time bucks. But what the irritation for me more than anything is they are not fixing our roads that are loaded with potholes, like Stark Street and 122nd Avenue. Massive potholes, big ruts in the road. 82nd is horrendous for potholes and ruts. You name it, they're all over the place. The street getting into my neighborhood, there's potholes all the time. They fill with temporary patch regularly. It lasts all of about 2 months before the potholes show up again. And what this city needs is them to stop spending money on these protecting human lives projects, this Vision Zero, and actually start applying those dollars to paving our freaking roads so we're not damaging our cars or getting flat tires from hitting all the freaking potholes. Anyway, that's it for my 2 cents. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a pleasant day.